energy. It's becoming more of a precious resource. It doesn't feel like we have endless energy. And I always wonder, when I was younger, did I have endless energy or did I just think I did? Now I definitely know for a fact I don't.
Hey, girlfriend.
Hey, girlfriend.
How do you and I conduct ourselves? How do we manage our energy throughout the day and get so much done, even though you and I are both wanting to work more in the slow lane? Do you have some pointers? What are you doing?
Yes. I mean, isn't this a topic we talk about now too in midlife? Energy. It's becoming more of a precious resource. It doesn't feel like we have endless energy. And I always wonder, when I was younger, did I have endless energy or did I just think I did? Now I definitely know for a fact I don't, right?
It's official.
It's official. But then it makes it more precious. Like, because it's a precious resource, what do we do with it? So, as I was thinking about this topic around energy, how to keep it going for us, the first thing that came up for me was tempo and going with the tempo of what, speed I'm in at the moment. As you know, I'm a big planner. And sometimes I have these grand plans for what my days and weeks will look like. And then I have to really measure that up against what I actually feel like. So this morning is a great example. Last night, I thought it would be really cool if I woke up super early and went and hiked in the redwoods. And then I woke up this morning and I felt very much in the slow lane. Love that term you're using. And I knew for a fact that I was calling in some yoga and some meditation practice. That's what my body needed. That's what my mind needed. And I did that because really we're like the ocean, right? Some days it's calm. Some days it's torrential and the waves are everywhere. And we're kind of riding that wave.
Yeah.
How about you?
I would say the main thing that I'm doing at this stage of my life is my own personal shadow work, meaning
Mm.
looking at my fears, looking at the symptoms in my life and trying to figure out the root causes. And,
Mm.
for years I did that. I've been doing that with therapists, but I'm also now able to do it on my own and doing like the shadow work. And so it's been very interesting looking at all the things like that part of me that thought, I have endless, boundless energy. I can do
Mhm.
all the things and I can stay up till 2 in the morning and wake up at 4:30 in the morning and do yoga and go for a hike and feed the kids. Like all the things, all this insanity, at least it's insanity in my mind.
Yeah.
There were a lot of reasons, and a lot of it's like good girl stuff that was
Mhm.
holding me into that story that I had to do more and be more. And so, through my own personal shadow work, looking at, I was trying to impress other people, or I was
Mm.
actually working off of someone else's agenda or someone else's desires for my time and my energy. And so, through doing that shadow work, looking at that and then reclaiming myself,
Yeah.
it makes it a lot easier to approach my day for me with my desires and my goals in mind.
Mm.
And so, like, planning my day actually ends up being a more natural byproduct because I don't feel like I'm trying to dance or perform for anyone else.
That is so true. I think too, don't you think part of being the recovering good girl is that, sort of burden of productivity and, getting so much done and being so efficient. That's not feeling the same in midlife. I have to have a lot more padding, a lot more space. I don't want to pack it all in. And I think you're right. I think so much of it is actually learning the true rhythms of our body that I think when we were younger, we were often denying or, ignoring or following, to your point, someone else's expectations versus our own. So isn't this a beautiful time to kind of really honor what we're needing as far as
Yeah. And
energy?
with it, I feel like you and I are both getting a lot more done than we were even like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's true. And yet isn't it interesting that we are slowing down a little? Like I feel that in my body. I feel that in my general tempo and I kind of love it.
Yeah. Well, give us another one. I feel like we're really getting on a roll here.
Yeah, another one is also just really balancing the noise with quiet time. And that can mean so many things for so many people. For me, it's literally going into quiet mode. I'm such a vocal person. I work with singers and public speakers. I have a loud family, a loud dog. I do improv. I need quiet at certain times to just recharge and to exhale out all of that input. And I was catching myself getting into this loop lately of, consuming news. We've talked about this in other episodes, especially lately, like what the hell's happening next? Consuming podcasts that aren't even news related. And I caught myself even doing this podcast thing on hikes, especially if I'm going by myself, where I'm dialed in to my pod and I'm not actually being present on my beautiful hike. And so I've gone ahead lately and taken out the earbuds and just allowed myself on these walks to be present in nature and be with my dog, and also the same thing in the morning, not getting immediately on the phone. I have this ritual. I've talked about it here before, but I love it. If someone in my family is kind enough to bring me a cup of tea, I just sit there and stare out my window and kind of zone out. I tried a 1-day meditation retreat at a beautiful center here in the Bay Area called at Green Gulch, and it was awesome. My takeaway from that experience was that I felt in my own body that was a bit much for me, but just sitting in the quiet that was communal and being there with people, but also knowing we don't have to say anything, we don't have to prove anything, we don't have to size each other up. It was really a beautiful experience. Do you know we even ate lunch in quiet? The impulse in me was to strike up a conversation, strike up small talk, and yet no, just be with yourself, just be with your food, just be in community while actually being quiet. So I just think in our big fast-paced world, what a cool exercise. Again, we could talk more about if that felt like it was quite the right fit for me, but boy, I'm sure glad I tried it. And you can do it at home, just sitting by yourself or walking or doing whatever kind of quiet meditative thing works for you. So quiet to balance out the noise.
Yeah. Well, that leads into mine so nicely. I mean, I think it's such a beautiful gift you gave yourself. And what I'm noticing too is one of the things that helps bring quiet for me, getting rid of the negative people in my life. The
Tell us
people who
more.
just bring me down, the people who wear me out, the people who treat me like I owe them something, like answers or my time, my energy, my attention. I am just a big hell no to that kind of energy, and I'm getting a lot better at figuring it out. And
Yeah,
how do I conduct myself so I can still be in community and still be in a family and still be in a neighborhood and all the things?
right.
Because again, the things that the other person is triggering in me is about me. So again, that's my shadow work.
Mm,
Sitting with that. Yeah, why does that person make me want to punch them in the face? There's something going on in me, right? It's not necessarily them, but maybe it's them because there's some people who mean us harm. But I've noticed that by being more careful about that, I'm able to run my energy for me a lot more easily. And so I'm right, presently being tested. There is a human in my life trying to get into my space.
mm,
And I don't think it's a bad person, but they're bad for me. They don't make me feel good. And I'm just around this person and I instantly feel like an old rag being wrung out. But by not playing, not engaging, not buying into their story that I need to be all up in their mix or they need to be up mine, I feel like I can really control and manage my energy more. It's like, oh, right. Well, I almost fell into the trap. Yay, I didn't.
mm,
But no, now this energy is for me to sit with my cup of tea or come beyond with my bestie or to think my
mm.
thoughts or to do my own shadow work or whatever the thing is. And so I have noticed that, and this is something you and I have been calling in since we started our podcast around recovering good girl.
Yeah,
And this is an old holdout of that.
yeah.
That who am I to say, I don't like that person, or I don't like the way I feel when I'm around them, and how it sucks on, and pulls on my time and my energy and
Mm,
drains, because my energy is for me and my
mhm.
beloveds and my family and my work and my everything. And
Yes.
so this has been big. I mean, you at most, I think a lot of men would hear us and be like, what's wrong with her? Why couldn't you just say no before? But I couldn't, I didn't, I wouldn't.
Right.
But now at 52, I'm like, come on, let's
52.
do this. I got my boundaries. I know where the limits are and I know what it feels like in me
Yeah.
and what it feels like to have I gotta use a full cup. My cup of energy is for
Yes.
me and the things I want to be putting energy into.
I love that. It's so important to remind us that these, negative energies we cannot control necessarily, but we can control our reaction. So you are doing this, next level mind jujitsu, but we really can do it. And just to broaden the lens, we know that there is somebody here in the United States right now who is trying to suck out all the energy in the room. And I really have seen this come up again and again with people, which is how do I go on living during this time when everything feels so out of whack? And I think the truth is it's really actually healthy to go, this is not okay. I don't approve of this. I don't like this. And then conserve our energy, protect our energy to your point with the cup, and think about what we do for ourselves, our loved ones. And then maybe we even have a little space in that cup left over to do some sort of advocacy. But if we are putting all of our energy and our focus on the narcissists and the dark forces around us, that's where our energy is going to go.
Yeah,
They win.
they win.
They win. So this is resistance. This really is actually resistance. And I don't think I would have thought of that before when I was younger. I think, well, this sounds selfish. You're protecting your energy. You should be selfless. But when we're selfless, we actually make ourselves very vulnerable to being consumed by the darkness.
And manipulate.
And manipulated. I'm not trying to be manipulated anymore. Mama does not want to be a puppet anymore. Thank you.
It's not a good look, and it doesn't actually even help. Well, maybe it helps the other person because they're getting your energy and they can use that for their own purposes. But but to me, when I zoom out, nobody wins in those situations, right?
Right.
And it is a powerful thing to know your own thoughts and feelings and then act accordingly.
And as we know, and we have other episodes around narcissists and how to really work on your good girl recovery, we know that they're a bottomless pit.
Yes.
So they will never get enough energy from you. So if there's a part of you that thinks, well, I'm given, and it's never freaking enough, you're right.
Ding, ding, ding. It's true.
You're right. And so, yeah, how beautiful to try to unhook from that. And again, we are not saying this is easy, right? If you have a boss, if you have someone who you have to be around constantly, this is hard stuff. But I think you come out with more energy if you can do this.
Yeah.
I love that, Flesche. Okay, beautiful. Well, I have one more that I think is a positive way to help us recharge and keep our energy, which is creativity. Staying creative. And again, this can look like so many different things. I mean, you and I obviously are doing this creative podcast together, which is constantly challenging us and having us think about cool things. But one of my best friends, her garden is her creative outlet. You can have more than one thing. I know you're a passionate gardener as well. I love doing improv. It can even be a really small, beautiful, creative thing at home. But whatever is like a fun project that you feel like you can return to, that does give you energy, that gives you inspiration. We want to keep going back to those things. So just like Flesche is pointing out, to put up the boundaries around the negative energy suckers, let's go towards the light. Let's go towards those things that light us up, because that's life force. And if we can continue to engage in that and do that on a daily basis, or whenever we can, I shouldn't say daily. We don't get it all the time, but it could be journaling. It could be whatever you make it. Because I will oftentimes, because I am a very creative person with very public projects, sometimes people will say, oh gosh, I wish I had the time for a podcast, or I wish I had the time to write a book, or you don't have to do these big public things. They can be private. It's whatever is feeding you. And that's very personal. And that can look like a lot of things. But I think if we tap into, yes, this is fun, this lights me up, that's that's a worthy thing to hold space for. So like I will actually plan out some creative time. It flows, and different weeks are in different times of my life. There's more or less of it, but I protect that fiercely because I know how energizing that is for me. And that goes into also with people, those people that light me up. I reserve time for them in my precious life.
Jessica, I mean, I love that you're totally inspiring me. So this is mine. I am just add water. It comes with a little paintbrush and it's like mindless. And I can be on the phone and talking with someone, and doing it doesn't take a lot of energy, but it's unbelievable how much
Unicorn
energy is
universe. So
wasted.
tell us, our listeners who are just listening and not watching us,
Oh yeah.
what is it? It's beautiful.
Well, it's coloring pages, but
Ooh.
all you need to do is add water to it. So like if I find that, and I love to doodle and I love to draw, and I just like it's just got all these pictures of little unicorns because my little inner 8-year-old is just having a whole renaissance and running wild in my life right now, and it's so much fun. But if I'm drawing with like a pencil, I can't talk and think at the same time if I'm blending colors. But if I'm just
Yeah.
like duh, with a paintbrush and water and just like going for it like a 3-year-old, oh my gosh. And as you're talking, it's
Yeah.
reminding me, it gave me energy on a day I had a project I didn't want to do. I was sitting
Mm.
endlessly doing my paint with water. All of a sudden was brimming with energy, tackled that project I did not even want to touch, finished it, and then I went on to another one. So actually, thank you so much for saying that. It reminding me I'm using that tool without even thinking about how it's actually an energy giver. Also, we're tapping into the right side of our brain,
Mhm.
and which is just such a beautiful, and for most people, incredibly untapped resource for solving
Right.
problems and fixing the world and fixing our relationships and all kinds of good stuff. So thank you, Jessica, for naming that.
Absolutely love that you're doing that, and just like it's such an easy thing. I like too that you point out that it can be mindless feeling and yet it's so impactful. So it doesn't have to be this mindful high art creative thing. It can be doodling, it can be humming. I've been humming so much more lately. I'm just loving humming for all these stimulating things it does for my nervous system and makes me feel calm. And it's like whenever I have a little moment, what am I going to hum now? What's the fun thing I'm feeling like humming? And I'm catching myself out and about walking and humming in front of people more and more. And it's just lighting me up. I love it.
Yeah. Well, Jessica, I mean, you taught me about humming, so I'm humming a lot more lately.
Oh,
And for
good.
girlfriends who missed that episode where we're talking about that, can you just give us a quick snippet of what the humming does for us middle-aged ladies?
Absolutely. Well, coming from a public speaking coach, what humming does is it vibrates our vocal cords. It warms up our speaking voice. It also stimulates our vagus nerve. It sends vibrations all through our body, and research shows us that it has a calming effect on our nervous system. So if you're feeling stressful, if you actually go to hum, there's research that shows that it disrupts the direct messaging of stress to our brain. So it's a beautiful disruptor. It's a beautiful calming thing. It's again a great vocal warm up, and I encourage everyone to hum.
Didn't you teach me there's something too about like lubricating us on the inside?
Thank you for that. Yes, it's also in vocal coaching, like a beautiful restorative exercise, and that it helps send blood and oxygen to our vocal cords, which in midlife can get a little more dried out. So we're sending blood there, we're sending circulation there. And y'all, our vocal cords are similar to our vajayjays. So there's a rejuvenation going on when you hum that helps all kinds of things.
That is so beautiful. Thank you for saying the thing because girlfriends need this information, and this is how we get it. We share it with each other.
That's right.
So, yeah, thank you for that.
You got it. You got it. Estradiol for the vocal cords.
If you know, then you know. If you don't know what we're talking about, then maybe you don't need it yet. And that is for me to really be focused on living on purpose. When I'm on purpose and I know what I'm here to do at this stage of my life, now that I'm in my
Mm,
50s, because I'm thinking about my legacy, I'm thinking about how much time I have left and how much time I have left with my loved ones, and
mm,
it's really very sobering it makes me want to use this time very wisely. And a big part of that is sharing my wisdom, the things that I have learned over the course of my life. And so I love having this podcast with you. I love my writing projects. I love all the other things that I'm doing, but I have all this energy for it because it is so steeped into my purpose. And some of that came through doing the shadow work, but most of it's just come through asking myself questions about what lights me up. What am I here to do? And for, I think so many girlfriends struggle with those kinds of questions for themselves and not also giving themselves enough time to think how it changes. I mean, in a given year, our purpose could change drastically. As a mom entrepreneur, I've always reassessed my work and how many hours I'm working and when I'm working and where I'm working, because I always wanted it to be based around my kids so I could be their primary parent and be the one there for them when they're sick and drive on field trips and all that good stuff. And so I've always had a practice of reassessing and noticing, yeah, now that they're out of diapers, I do have a little more time for this, or I do have more time for coaching calls. And but now that they're much more independent, I have so much more time for me and I want to leave this legacy behind. And I do feel like an internal drive to get the projects done, to speak it into the microphone, to record it, to share it on a larger scale, because I do believe that's part of what I'm here for.
I love that. And you honored yourself. You went inward to do some, like you said, shadow work, to give yourself the space to think about what that purpose is. Because I do think that takes, like you said, some talking with yourself. I'm just thinking about some women who are listening going, well, I don't know. I'm kind of in my midlife rut. I'm just doing my regular routine. I don't know what that looks like. I think you can get clues and signs from yourself, but you've got to be in conversation with yourself, which when we're kind of in our autopilot lane can feel a little out of the ordinary. So some of those creative practices that we talked about, whether it's your coloring book or your gardening or your writing, those things are going to, I think, open up and illuminate a lot of things around your purpose. And also, Flesche, I love that you said our purpose changes. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many times mine is changing or shifting. And just like I am, I thought it was this and then it's moving to this. And so being flexible enough to go, oh, yeah, I thought this was what I was going for. Now I'm calling this in. That is so human. That is
It is
so
so human,
honest.
and our culture doesn't support it. And
Right.
so actually, as we've been talking, I got two more podcast ideas for us to deep dive on. But there's something going on with midlife where, for I don't know if everybody is familiar with this idea that when the caterpillar becomes the butterfly, it's two different sets of DNA. So the
Wow.
caterpillar has its own DNA and the butterfly has its own DNA, but it's the same creature, it's the same entity, which is really mind-blowing and kind
Mm.
of for the
Oh,
brain,
the butterfly thing is bananas. It's
isn't it?
bananas.
And I mean, some people, I'm maybe scientists, but people have cut open the cocoon and be like, what's
Mm.
going on in there? And usually it's goo. It's like, it looks
Mm-hmm.
nasty. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
pretty process. It's like it's all
Mm.
happening inside and in the dark, and it's all very private. And we as humans go through that too. And I
Yes.
think, especially as women, we're going through this process. I feel like I'm actually just coming out of a version of that for myself. I feel like my
Mm.
wings are drying here in the sun a little bit.
Mm.
It was such beautiful work to do in that stage. But
Mm.
our culture, our society, our friends and family, people don't know to honor it. And we don't
Right.
know to honor it and say, hey, I'm going through some stuff. And I talk about this, and I didn't know to say, I think I'm just going through a quiet time. Just let me do that. I didn't even say that to anybody. But now that
Right.
I've come through it, I can see, oh, that's what was going on because I feel on fire now. I've got all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of clarity and a whole new direction.
You aren't. The goo part of figuring out your inspiration is hard and it's messy and it's sticky and it's not terribly clear, right? And it makes me think of two things. It reminds me of a time in my life when I really was in like burnout and I didn't even realize it. I had just gotten so into a pattern And that is happening. We're hearing about burnout. And I think, there's obviously many reasons for burnout and some are out of our control. But I think also, do we honor having those conversations out in the open? Like you're saying, with ourselves, with our community, with people who we feel like we can say, I don't know what my purpose is right now. I'm floundering, or I'm in a funk right now. Can be an opportunity, as gooey as it is, to unpack some stuff, but it's scary and it can feel so isolating. And it's just like to remind each other, this happens to all of us at different points. The other thing is, my son, who is a junior, is really starting to decide what he's going to major in for college. And a major is such a major thing to proclaim. And I can tell he's stressing out. So what I keep trying to reflect back is, you can choose one thing now. You can absolutely change your mind later, and you likely will, right? And there just is this pressure at all these stages of life to choose a thing and stick with it. And we got to remember that we're porous and we're fluid, and it's messy. It's not cut and dry. So just even talking to our young people about, okay, you think you want to do this? Good, go for it. Give it all you got. And give yourself permission to change.
To change. Yeah. Right. We're all multi-hyphenate people. We're creative and logical, and we're smart and lazy. And, we're all these things, and they're all true at the same time.
Yeah.
And we're entering into a time where more of us are acknowledging that and seeing it. Dying off are the days of, you go to college, you pick a career, you stay there for 35 years, you get the gold watch, and you sit on the rocking chair. You know,
Yeah.
those
There's security isn't there for those jobs any longer.
exactly, exactly. And I think we all see this very clearly. AI is moving at a rate that is scaring even the AI experts. And it's predicted that at the end of this year, it's going to be as smart as the human brain, as functional and functioning. I mean, it really
Wow.
is going to be taking out so many of those jobs. And I don't think most of us are prepared for that. Most people are still trying to hold on to the old way and
Yeah.
not quite thinking, well, yeah, who do I want to be in this post AI world where
Yeah.
maybe I don't need to go into an office and work on banking or whatever,
Right.
we're moving into a really interesting time, and I don't think most girlfriends of a certain age are quite prepared. Actually, that's a whole other thing I want to talk about.
We got a whole nother season lined up just from this talk today. This is
Isn't
how we
it?
do it here, y'all. This is where we get the inspiration. We're kind of, we're walking in the goo talking about these things, right?
It's so enlivening. I love these conversations. I love you,
I
Jessica.
love you
Being on this
too.
journey with you is just one of the biggest gifts of my life, and to be on it with our
Mm.
girlfriends and also seeing what they're thinking about. So, girlfriends, leave us a
Mhm.
comment, share with us what sparked something alive in you. Where are you in the goo? Are you just out of the goo? Do you think you're heading into the goo? What do you do? What did we miss? What do you
Yes.
do to keep your energy up at this stage of life now that you're in midlife? Maybe you're looking at that prospect of being on the other side of menopause. Where are you in this journey? Because this conversation is not complete until we hear from you as well.
Yes, and you can join us over on Substack at
You can find us at girlfriends.substack.com, and the link is below.
We want to know what's energizing you. It'll help us. Let's share the good things. Let's live out loud together, girlfriends. I love sharing. Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. I love it. Okay, well, till next time, girlfriend.